Alright folks, we're back from vacation and disaster has struck. When I left, these tomatoes started getting sick. Now I've diagnosed the problem, and what it turns out to be is uneven watering. These wire rack shelves are not flat, so these trays sit kind of at an angle one way or another. This particular one sat at kind of this angle where all the water would go down that way. And so you can see as a result, the tomato doing the best is actually in the corner that would have gotten the most water. Now, this took a little while to diagnose because it wasn't exactly the most obvious thing in the world. I did, however, figure this out by looking and seeing that that one was the only one that still had moisture in it. The rest of them were a lot more dry, which isn't necessarily a problem, especially when the dryness is on the surface. The surface has to dry out every once in a while, or you'll get damping off. But we diagnosed that, we remedied it, and all of a sudden, these plants go from being just pure purple, green, and crusty brown to having quite a good amount of green on them. Most of the yellow's gone away. There's still some with yellow here, and I imagine it'll take just a little while for it to recover fully to the point where these guys are, dark green and stuff like that. They're going to have to grow new foliage and everything like that. But we fixed the problem. So crisis averted. The series goes on. It continues, which is awesome because it hasn't even gotten off the ground yet. That could have been disastrous. But okay. So we fixed the problem. The plants are looking okay. We've sowed a few new varieties. I think this one's called like Orange Jubilee or something like that. Yeah, the Romas seem to have taken the biggest amount of damage. Now, I don't know if that has something to do with fan placement. Maybe the fan was drying out more of these because it's closer to the fan, whatever. Or if it's actually a variety issue. Maybe this variety is a lot less drought resistant than the rest of these guys. That's entirely possible. Now, these guys, I don't know why there's so many Purcell, but they're not looking too hot, and I think it's because these guys were actually sowed after the rest of these. This is the Mountain Magic. They were sown after the rest of all of these guys, and then they got the drought. So they got the drought at an earlier stage. So I'm guessing that's the issue, but I don't think that that's going to be an issue for long. They're also growing a little too tall and thin, so I might have to put a fan in front of them to kind of thicken up the roots. Here's our basil that we transplanted. We got our peppers here. They're starting to look a little dry. I'm going to give them a little water here in a minute. The peppers did better than all the rest of the stuff because peppers are naturally drought resistant, right? So if there was sections on in these cells here that didn't get as much water, the plants did not do as bad. Now, there were a few that were visibly stressed. And you can see this corner, which was actually, it was rotated, but this corner was the one with pooled up water. And you can see the best looking pepper is, of course, in this corner. So yeah, crisis averted. If your tomatoes sit in water, that's like a perfect environment for diseases and things like that. So I made sure not to make that mistake. You pull the excess water out. But we fixed the problem. Now, before I diagnosed the actual issue, I tried a few things to kind of go down the line and see if I can fix the issue just based on what I'm seeing. The yellow leaves, right? People think nitrogen deficiency, so I used Alaska fish fertilizer on these guys. Now, the watering actually did help, and the Alaska fish fertilizer did help. I'm sure these wouldn't be quite as green as they are now if they didn't get that nitrogen boost. But yeah, they have regained a lot of their green color. These ones that were these just were completely burnt off, so they had no leaves right here. But now you can see each one of these is starting to regrow green leaves. This tray in particular took the most amount of damage Now, I don't know if that's placement to the fan, right? It's the closest to the fan, and so the fan's drying it out and killing them further, but we've diagnosed the issue, and the tomatoes are making a recovery. A lot of these look okay. Like up here, they're looking real good. And something to note also is the ones in these flat trays here are looking a little more consistent and even. The one in the long trays, which are very soft plastic and they kind of warp and tilt and all that kind of stuff, they're looking a lot more beat up. So something to think about for next time. I may come up with some kind of system to flatten all this out and kind of level it out for next season, just to make things easier. But yeah, the series continues. We will definitely be doing the full process from seed to harvest. I was a little worried. I thought we might have had a season killer before it even began, but no, we're good. We've sowed a new variety over here called Orange Jubilee. Pretty interested to see how that turns out. This tray looks like it needs something, like maybe it needs to be moved closer to the light or something like that. We'll find out. We'll find out. We'll have a look around. The peppers did really well, and that's because peppers are naturally drought resistant, so no issues there. Here's our basil, which we did a YouTube short on about how to sow and transplant basil, one into each cell. Now, I did run out of seedlings, so I didn't manage to fill up those last 4 on the right there, but that's okay. Still worked. So yeah, guys, that's the update on the tomatoes. I'll actually end up showing you guys exactly what I did before I diagnosed the actual issue. I kind of went down the line of some of the things I thought it could be and attempted to do kind of a remedy. Now, a lot of this stuff you basically should do anyways, like the Alaska fish fertilizer. These are past their seed leaves or cotyledon seeds. They have leaves. They have their true leaves here, which means they are no longer pulling energy from the seed, and they actually need to be pulling resources from the soil medium. This seed starting mix I made as sterile, which means I have to add in some kind of feed. This is just cocoa coir, perlite, and vermiculite. So there are no nutrients in there, and they very much need to be fed. So I use Alaska fish fertilizer. It's 5-1-1, 5 nitrogen, 1 phosphorus, 1 potassium. And the nitrogen helps the leafy green growth, and the minerals within the fish fertilizer help with a host of other issues like stressed out plants and all sorts of things. When your tomato seedlings get beat up, Alaska fish fertilizer. It's good stuff, man. Now I suppose you could use any other brand of fish fertilizer, but I've found Alaska fish fertilizers the most effective. I've tried a few others and they were a little underwhelming rather. But okay guys, that is the tomato seed to harvest update from in the grow room. Now I'm going to take you guys outside and show you guys what I tried to do to basically help these guys out. As you can see, these seedlings are looking rough. Almost no green. Yellow and purple and brown in some spots is about all there is. And this is what I saw when I got home from my 3 weeks away. My first response was to give these plants a little Alaska fish fertilizer. Man, this stuff smells effective. The nitrogen will help the stressed out seedlings regrow some stronger foliage. I mixed it up at 1 tablespoon per gallon and poured the feed directly over the seedlings. It's water soluble and could be absorbed straight through the leaves. After giving them a feed, I decided to let them have 1 hour in direct sunlight, to not only start the hardening off process, but to let the sun cook any potential developing fungus on the surface of the soil. The final thing I did was to give them a proper watering, and they immediately started making a comeback. I'm very pleased to be able to say that this series isn't over before it began. You're still here. That's excellent. Thank you for watching, and I'll be sure to keep the updates coming. See you soon.